Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's currently -10. Last night was -20 and it was cold. I was wearing about 4 jumpers plus my sheepskin jacket. For the last few months, 3-4 months, we've kept the living room fire going 24 hours a day, which is pretty hard going. But when it gets to -20, you're basically just battling the cold. It makes you feel very drowsy after a while. Woodpecker. Today I'd like to talk about the forest. Now, one of my subscribers has asked me to talk more about the paranormal aspect of the Carpathian forests, as I believe he has moved to Slovakia and is obviously interested in what happens in these ancient forests. If any of you were readers of the Bushcraft magazine when I was writing my true Carpathian horror articles, you'll know to what I'm referring. Most people know the Carpathians through Transylvania, which is in Romania, but the Carpathian mountain range stretches all across Central and Eastern Europe, and in the area I'm in, these forests are huge and ancient, and there are things that dwell within them which predate humanity. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, strange things occur when you're in the forest. Well, I wrote about them in more detail for Bushcraft magazine. Some of these stories you can read about on my website, edwardotoole.com. But what I'd like to talk about today is a certain forest which I regularly visit. There are forests all around me, but the forest I'm talking to lies directly south of my house. And it looms over on a big hill overlooking the village. The village is basically in a long, thin valley. There's about 200 inhabitants, mostly in old houses. But this certain forest is where the logging road, or the logging trail is, where we go several times per year to get our firewood, and the rest of the village does. Now this forest, the villagers don't like going into because they say it's saturated with wolves. There are a lot of wolves in it. Now interestingly, last night at about half 8, it was -20 outside, and I'd come out, it's pitch black, -20, and I'd come out to the woodshed to get some wood, and my son had come out to see what -20 is like, and we heard a howling from that forest, very, very low howl, sort of like ooh, but very low, and all the dogs in the village went mental. So we stopped and we listened, and it was cold. Our notes were just frozen. And then it happened again. Another ooh, low howl. And we stood there and waited. And after a while, to the east of the village, in another forest, in the direction of where I took the photo of the wolf carrying the deer leg. There was a return howl, another, and all the dogs in the village just went ballistic, and it was so faint, the howl. It was a very strange night last night. Very, very strange night. There was something different. My wife was in the kitchen, and I was upstairs in my studio, and she called me down because she'd heard me outside kicking the stone step to come into the kitchen door. You see, when you go outside in thick snow, when you come back in, you have to kick your boots on the stone step to clear the snow from the boots. Obviously you take them off as soon as you come in, but you need to get rid of the bulk of the snow. And she was in the kitchen, and she heard what she thought was me kicking the stone step to get the snow off of my boots. Except I wasn't outside, I was upstairs. So I went out with a torch and had a look around, let the dog loose, and there was nothing there. Maybe she misheard it. A few hours later, I myself was alone in the kitchen, and I heard it again, this kick of the stone step. So I went outside, I had a look around, nothing whatsoever. For those of you who know Slavonic mythology, chances are this was either the domovoi of the house, or more likely it was the Dvorovoi, the spirit of the yard, being annoying. Maybe because he's cold, because it's -20, so he decided to annoy us. I need to placate him somehow, maybe by leaving an egg out or nailing a shoe somewhere. But that was it was quite creepy. You had the wolf howling, we had very, very cold temperatures, and then on 2 separate occasions something kicking the wooden step. My wife's first thought was it was red deer, because we've had this problem before where they're literally outside the kitchen door and maybe one of them had kicked it by accident. Anyway, back to the forest. This particular forest, which I regularly walk up, it's a logging trail. I go up there because of the sheer diversity of animal species. The other day I tried to make a video about tracking. I wanted to show basically how to track animals in the snow, and this is a perfect location because it has a thin logging track between dense forest on either side. So after snowfall you have basically a perfect canvas for animals crossing backwards and forwards across this track. So it's very easy to read just what animals are there. And I spent a couple of hours walking up this hill to where there's like a logger's. It's not a cabin, it's somewhere where they can like sit and eat. It's a very bare bones wooden structure. But it's normally where we head up and then head back. It's a few hours walk each way, continuous steep climb all the way up. And it's very remote, very, very remote. The day I went, there was only one tractor trail for the entire length. There's no human footprints, there's no dog footprints. Any tracks you see are wild. And yes, there are wolf prints quite regularly. There's lots of deer prints, boar prints, lynx. It's an amazing place. Fox, badger. But this forest, I did my several hour walk up to this cabin. I had my microphone set up and I'm speaking the whole way, pointing out tracks, what they are, what they represent, if the animal's moving, if it's hunting, whatever it's doing. And it was a beautiful sunny day. Beautiful, beautiful. It was about -5, I think. No, -7. And thick snow, because it had only just finished snowing at lunchtime. I went all the way up there, coughing most of the way, so there's no animals shown. Did the footage of the tracks, and then came back again. I got home, checked the SD card on the film footage, perfect, got several hours of very clear footage, and then I checked the sound, plugged in the SD card, and the sound file was corrupted. I lost several hours of sound, which basically means the footage itself is useless because it's on an action camera, and without the sound you don't know what you're looking at. And I was very, very annoyed. The reason I was annoyed is because this is the third time in a few weeks that I've had the same problem. And I've used different methods to record the sound. For example, when I made the Leshy film, I went into the forest and I spent several hours filming and recording voice and sound, and discovered that the sound didn't work. And I was using a lavalier microphone connected to mobile, which is something I use quite often. But for whatever reason, it didn't work. So I had to scrap all that footage. The next time was a few weeks ago, and I was up there and I had the microphone connected to the camera. And again, this time the camera showed mute. It didn't record any sound whatsoever, completely silent. And this is a few hours walking up a logging trail in the middle of a forest in the hills alone. All this bird sound, conversation, no sound whatsoever. The footage is ruined. And then, was it yesterday or the day before, I go up to make a video about tracking animals in the snow. No sound. It won't let me record sound. It doesn't matter how I try. And last time I went, a few days ago, I specifically knew I'd had problems, so I checked everything beforehand. I even checked when I started recording. No sound. The footage is useless. Now this forest that I'm referring to is one of the forests we've actually had encounters with the being or the presence that is the Leshy, and I even refer to it when I'm tracking in the snow, where we could hear we were being stalked through the forest for quite a long period, and a tree came crashing down behind us. It was eerie. I can't even explain how eerie it is. The forest where I got lost within a few moments, and it seemed like the forest had changed its orientation, is the forest on top of this hill. And that's a forest I've been up many, many times. I mean, sometimes twice daily, to use game cameras or to do various things. It's a forest I know, like this part of the forest, because it is an immense, immense forest ultimately. This part of the forest I know very well. And on that occasion, the forest sort of turned itself around, and that was very, very scary. Very, very scary. When you think you know something, and it's completely the opposite. Again, I wrote about that for Bushcraft magazine. But this particular forest, it won't let me film. Even when I've used trail cams, game cameras in the past, it messes with the camera. It distorts the picture quality, it changes the picture colour. I get filled SD card, 300 videos, and each one of them is corrupted. it won't let me show. There are animals I've recorded in that forest which I don't know what they are. I can only guess at. Because they look odd. Now there's something about that forest. It will let me film, it'll let me take photographs, but it won't allow me to have sound. And it doesn't matter how I try, it won't allow me. It corrupts the file, it mutes the sound. One time I went up there and I had my little mini boom mic, which I duct tape onto my video camera. I get up there and discover the foam cover and the little fluffy thing, I look that up, were both missing. And because of the wind, it makes it impossible to record sound. You just hear the whole way. Lots of times, it's like it plays tricks with me. It doesn't want me to hear something, or it doesn't want me to record something that maybe I can't hear, like an EVP. Maybe there's another sound I can't hear physically, but an electronic device will. So it won't allow me to record it. It's a very strange forest, and when you're up there on your own, walking for several hours, going uphill around these twisty logging trails, you're constantly listening out for wildlife. And then you will hear these strange noises, or trees will start acting in a strange way, or it will go totally silent. I mean, totally silent. Which here is very unusual because we have ravens and eagles and woodpeckers and you know, there's squirrels. There's always some noise. But when it goes dead silent, and then you hear this crack as if something has just stepped on a stick. It's very strange. Anyway, today I just wanted to tell you about the forest that won't let me film with sound. Maybe it's just me, but you know, I've been doing this for many years, and normally I don't have problems. But this one forest, who knows what these forests hide. Maybe if I could actually record sound in that forest, I'd be able to hear some ancient voice or an ancient sound which is not meant for our generation. I'll keep trying. It's, you know. Anyway, as always, be free.